It's great to be together in God's house this morning, isn't it? And thank the Lord for His presence, and good to see each and every one of you. We're thinking orange this morning, and whenever we refer to that, we're obviously talking about this partnership between the home and the church. And, we value every individual that's a part of our church family and every person inside and outside of the church, and we also value the family. We believe in the value and the importance of the family, and this partnership is important to make a difference in the lives of individual children and in the lives of families. And so today I want to point out as we get started, the opportunity to influence the life of a child is very limited. If you're taking notes, I would encourage you to go there in your notes and jot down that the opportunity to influence the life of a child is limited. This past week, we had our middle child, our oldest son, Tyler, and his three children come. His wife was out of town, and they made the trip up to Seymour from Memphis, Tennessee, by themselves, 6, 3, and 1 year old. And I said, well, you're a better man than me. I'm not sure I would leave the safety of my home if I was going one-on-one with all three kids, 3-on-1, I guess you might say. But having those three kids at our house last weekend, Friday night, all day Saturday and Sunday, reminded me a lot of what it was like to raise our own three children. We raised three. They're all 30 years and older now, and they were all about in a window of about 33 months, I think. We had all three kids. And some people hear that and they say, what in the world were you guys thinking? And I just tell them we weren't. We weren't. It just happened. Truth of the matter is, Lori couldn't keep her hands off of me, but I don't like to go there. It was a long time ago. So we were spending more money on diapers then than we did on groceries. And I can tell you, some days that business of child rearing, it made the days seem incredibly long. And I'm sure that some of you that are in the early stages of raising a young family, you can relate. Kids are nonstop. They're on the go all the time. They're moving and they're going and they're doing, and the demands are relentless. And we had a vivid reminder of that this past weekend when we were there. I didn't realize how I had forgotten about bedtime arbitration. That's what I call it, bedtime arbitration. Negotiating with a 3-year-old about bedtime, I think I would rather work with a terrorist. I think they'd be easier to get some compliance out of, but you get this sense at first of there's a perceived compliance, and then suddenly, they need a drink, and you think, well, what's that going to hurt? Give them a drink and kind of reward the perceived compliance, and another drink, and then the next thing you got to go potty. Well, what do you expect? You're going to have to go potty? We've been giving you all these drinks all night, but the days are long. And they can seem painfully long at times, but the season of parenting and influencing the lives of these children is really very short. So as our children started having children, we wanted to provide a visible reminder to them and their spouses of just how short the time of parenting would be. And so we gave them all three of them, a jar of marbles just like this. And we just delivered our last jar of marbles to South Carolina when our youngest son and his wife had their first baby on March 26, just a month ago. And that jar of marbles is a visible reminder that Travis and Laura will have a certain amount of time to influence little Liam before he leaves home. Because each of the marbles in the jar, each marble represents about a week in their life. And there are approximately 936 weeks from the time a child is born until they grow up and graduate and move on to whatever's next. About 18 years, 936 weeks. And that jar of marbles, has about 936 to 1,000 marbles. We didn't count each one of them. But we gave that to them as that reminder, and we've done that for our other two kids as well. And the idea is that they're to take a marble out of the jar and put it in a bag every week, and that'll show them how quickly time is passing by. And I was thinking about it this week. Tomorrow will be Liam's 5th week birthday. And so I dropped 2 there, 3, 4, and 5. 5 weeks already gone. Now you're sitting there thinking, well, that's no big deal. That's only 5. Can't even tell there's any missing. I can tell you as a grandparent, I'm thinking 5 weeks, he's already 5 weeks, and we FaceTime or Skype or whatever and see them and think, man, how quickly time is passing. And all of us know that that's the truth when it's our family and our children. And so our oldest granddaughter, it made me start thinking about her. She's 6 years old. 80 marbles are gone out of her jar. 80 marbles already. It's like, where did the time go? I can't believe it. And, maybe some of this helps us explain why we feel like as parents sometimes we're losing our marbles. It's because we are. They're disappearing quicker than you might think. But that jar of marbles is a visible reminder to all of us of how much time we have left. And so I want to give you a couple of principles to jot down there in your notes that are very important. The first is, when you see how much time you have left, you tend to be more serious about the time you have now. When you see how much time you have left, you tend to be more serious about the time you have right now. What you do as a parent every day matters more than you might think. The principle that we're talking about today has application in every aspect of life because time is so limited. The psalmist tells us that time is fleeting. In Psalm chapter 39, verse 4, he said, Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered, how fleeting my life is. When you see how much time you have left, you tend to get more serious about what time you have in the here and now. Psalm chapter 90, verse 12 is a verse that we look at a lot around here where it says, teach us to number our days and recognize how few they are. Help us to spend them as we should. Ephesians 5:16 challenges us to make the most of our time. I think we all realize that time is a precious commodity, and you don't want to waste it. You want to be sure that you value whatever time you have. And this applies to parents and grandparents and families and right on down the line. But it also has application for the church, for pastors and next-gen directors and youth pastors and youth leaders and volunteers and everybody who serves in those capacities trying to influence the next generation. There's a second principle that I want you to be sure and get, and that is when you see how much time you have left, you tend to make what matters matter more. When you see how much time you have left, you tend to make what matters matter more. Have you ever been to a game that's time-bound? I mean, it's like you're in the final few seconds, the pressure's on, the clock's running down. Especially you know what this is like if you've ever watched a high-stakes game like the NCAA playoffs or, the Super Bowl. You're down to those last few seconds, and there's a greater awareness of our goals in those final few seconds and the time we have left to achieve those goals. And that's what enables us, as we think about this in terms of life, to prioritize our lives and focus our ministry. And that's what these marbles are really all about, because we give a smaller jar of marbles like this with about 50 marbles to those who participate in Baby D on May 13th. That jar is to represent about a year in the life of a child, because over the course of a year, a parent has about 3,000 hours to influence a child. And that's a lot on one hand, but it blows by pretty quickly. The church, on the other hand, has about 40 hours to be able to influence your children over the course of the year. So what that means is that the family has the greatest potential to influence a child's relationship with God. To use this marble terminology that we're talking about today, we're playing for keeps. We're making eternal investments in the lives of our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and we have only a limited amount of time to make a difference. And that's why Moses instructed the Israelites the way he did over in Deuteronomy chapter 6, a verse we've read recently, where he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these commandments that I give you today, they are to be upon your hearts. The final verse says, impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up. See, there's an urgency, I think, to the words that Moses was speaking, because we have to stay engaged with our kids. So much is on the line. And Moses is talking about just kind of day in, day out kind of stuff. He wants us to understand that religious education, it is to be life-oriented, not information-oriented. He's teaching these Hebrews to use the context of daily life to be able to teach their children about God. He wanted them to know that it's a good idea to have dinner together around the table with the phone off and the TV off. It's a good idea. That's the kind of thing in principle that he's talking about. It's about playing together and laughing together and having fun together as a family. It's about consistently being at church together. See, the key to teaching your children to love God is to live your life for God before them, day in and day out. Make sure that God's a part of those everyday experiences in your family's life. Teach your children diligently to see God in all aspects of life. Sit down and, visit with your kids and discuss the content of the materials like they'll bring home today from Next Gen, and, help them understand that, the things that they're seeing and learning, and they need to hear your voice speaking truth and affirming truth in their lives. They need to hear you pray with them. They need to hear you pray for them. You see, the family has the greatest potential to influence a child's relationship with God. There is no question about that. But secondly, the church has the greatest potential to influence the family. And that's what Orange is all about. Most of us anticipate having about 18 to 21 years to influence the life of a child. And as a parent, we need to ask, what are the big things, those deposits that we're wanting to make into their lives? What are the things that we want to make sure happen for them physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, mentally, academically? And I would ask you to consider one other thing. You probably have some certain academic goals for your child. Do you have any spiritual goals for your kids? Do you have any spiritual objectives? Is that on your radar? I hope that it is. Or is the greatest concern you have whether or not they make the team? Or whether or not they get on the honor roll? Or if they get the scholarship? Or fit in with their friends? This is the most important thing I'm going to say to you today. There's nothing. There is absolutely nothing that is more important than teaching your children and your grandchildren to know and follow Jesus Christ. Nothing. That has eternal significance. That's the only thing you're going to do in their lives that's going to matter 1,000 years from right now. And I want you to understand how very, very important it is. And we're doing everything we can to partner with parents by providing all kinds of resources. One of the great resources that I want to make sure you're aware of is the Parent Cue app. It allows you to watch a Bible story, see the memory verse, read inspiring articles, count down, just like what I'm talking about with these marbles. You can find a countdown there for your kids. There's a Parent Cue blog. There's a Parent Cue podcast. Some of the recent topics included how to parent in a world of social media. Would there be any value at all to that for you today? How to raise a strong-willed blessing. Any of you have any strong-willed blessings living at your house? There's a podcast. How to help your kids resolve conflict. We had a little bit of conflict at our house with our 3 kids. We could have learned, we could have benefited from resources like these. But we provide take-home papers every week. We provide additional content on our Facebook page. So many resources we put at your fingertips as a way of partnering together to provide the positive impact that we hope to have on the next generation. Let's just be honest. There are all kinds of voices trying to speak into the lives of your children. There's no question about that. And there are some of those voices that need to be silenced because they are clamoring for the attention of your children. And you need to make some intentional decisions and choices about the voices that you need to turn up. You need to turn up the volume on certain voices so that those voices can be more readily heard. Every once in a while, my kids would hear from somebody else, and they'd come home from church or something, and they'd say, "Man, the youth pastor said this." And it's like, I've been saying that to you since you were born, man. What is the matter with you? But in the end, it wasn't about who said it. The big deal was that they got the message. That's all that I really cared about when it was all said and done. And it doesn't happen when you're not here consistently. Because see, when somebody's going to have influence to speak into the life of your child, they need to have a relationship. That's got to happen to be able to make it possible for them to hear those voices. My boys, when we first came, the youth pastor here at that time was Dwayne Mills, and they had lots of fun, made lots of memories with Dwayne, and one of my favorites was when we were out of town. Lori and I were gone on a Friday night, and my boys drove in at the high school football game over here at Seymour High School, pulled through the parking lot, and Dwayne, our youth pastor, saw them and greeted them as they drove by. They went and parked. He didn't chase them down. There was a couple of problems with this whole scene that I should point out. Number one, neither one of them had a car. Problem number one. And then number two was the bigger problem. Neither of them had a driver's license. So Dwayne didn't go running them down. He knew they'd come to him because they had a relationship. And sure enough, boy, they come marching up the steps at the bleachers at the high school football game, and they sat down, and he says, "How you boys doing?" "Oh, we're good." He says, "Do you want to call your dad, or would you like me to?" I remember that call very well. And so do my boys. And it wouldn't have happened if they didn't have a relationship. And see, that's why we're about developing these relationships with students and adult leaders. This is what we want for families at The Point. See, relational connections can help influence their life for Jesus. And I'm telling you a story that has some real practical stuff with it, but Dwayne was able to speak some things into their lives because of the relationship. And I was telling Renee this week, it was interesting, whenever they come home, my kids, there's certain people that they're looking for. And you know who you are because you've had influence in their lives. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the voices that reinforced the things that we were trying to say because they needed to hear it from somebody else, and it made such a difference. But the church plays a vital role in the transformation that God wants to do in their lives, and we can't make a child believe in God. We can't force these things to happen, but we can create environments and we can create relationships and we can do everything we can to set them up for success. And that's what we've been trying to do through the ministries of Next Gen and Crave. We're doing everything we can to pass on our faith to the next generation, and we're not going to quit because the stakes are too high, and we're not going to give up because we're playing for keeps, as I said. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's involved in serving in this way now or in recent days, or even if you're thinking about it. But I want to say thank you to our Next Gen volunteers, to our Crave Student Ministry volunteers, to our staff in both of these areas. Would you just like to give them a hand? The people that are caring for your children, ministering to them from Embrace Place upstairs to the Discover Factory, Wonder Town, Fuel, Boost. I mean, these are people that are loving on those kids, and they're doing it day in and day out, week in and week out, because they care. And I want you to know you're making a difference. You may not see it or sense it in the moment, but you're making a difference. I want to say thank you to our Next Gen director, Becky Sanders, who's beginning her 7th year of full-time ministry here at The Point this summer. And because of that, Becky, she has led the way in a transition that has revolutionized our children's ministry here at The Point over the last 6 years. And I'm so thankful to be able to report that we as a church are providing her with an 8-week sabbatical this summer to rest and renew and be refreshed in her role of ministry here. See, our objective is to invest in our full-time ministry staff by providing them the opportunity every 7th year of ministry to have a sabbatical. We call it a Sabbath rest, and it's designed to renew passion and creativity and to prevent ministry burnout. And the challenge of leading a ministry like Next Gen is something that is unlike anything you've experienced. Everybody that's associated says, I had no idea. I had no idea. And it's like, you're right. Until you've done it, you don't have any idea. The demands are huge, and the commitment that is required is astronomical. And I'll tell you, Becky is such an incredible blessing to our team. Please let her know that you appreciate her, because she does an outstanding job. You can text her, drop her a note, email her, tell her in person. But I'm thankful she gets this opportunity because she needs it and she deserves it. That sabbatical is going to take place in June and July, and I want to encourage you even now to begin praying that this experience will be all that God intends it to be, because I believe that God is pleased when we invest in our leaders like this, and I'm thankful to be a part of a church that invests on this level. I'm thankful that we can provide opportunities like this, because I'll tell you the truth, and this is no exaggeration, I had an experience like this myself in 2009 here at the church. We implemented a policy back in 2004, 2009. I had no idea where I was going to be mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I had the opportunity to be on a sabbatical at that time, and it saved my life and ministry. And I'm telling you right now, if this church had not made that investment in me and in my life and ministry and my family, I would not be standing here today. And we would not be, I believe, experiencing many of the blessings, not because of me, but because I believe God blesses those who invest in others, like this church has invested in us. And so I'm so thankful. And, we're talking about staff. While we mention that, I want to mention to you that I won't even try to repeat what I was going to say. Our new youth pastor is on his way. Now, I can't tell you the details. Yeah, it is cause for celebration, but I can't tell you the name yet, but we'll do that shortly. He has yet to resign where he is, and so once that announcement's been made, we'll be letting you know more, but the search has ended, and the new youth pastor, why is that so hard to say? He's on his way, and we'll tell you more as soon as we can, but right now I just ask you to begin praying for this transition. We have been very intentional in this process. We said, hey, we're on a path. We're inviting you to join us on this path where there's alignment already. We're moving in a direction. We're not asking somebody to come in here and start over and turn it another direction or go another way. We're going to keep going because we believe we've got momentum and traction and God's helping us. And so we celebrate the fact that that decision has been made and a great couple and a family are on their way, and you'll hear more about that soon. But all of this alignment, it's all a very positive thing, how we can make a difference in the lives of these kids over that 936 weeks. Because here's what we know. We know that time is slipping away. And we get one opportunity to get it right, to make a difference. And that time is passing by. It's a fleeting moment. And we're making our days count by counting our days. And parents, guardians, grandparents, we want to encourage you. We want to resource you. We want to support you. And we want to inspire you to use those hours that you have, those 3,000 hours. Use them wisely and in a way you won't regret. In a way you won't regret later. Might as well embrace it, It is what it is today. But, we're fighting for the lives and the hearts of sons and daughters, and God has put us in this place, and this is the power of partnership. And I want you to know you're not on your own. Please don't ever feel like you are. We want you to know we're in this thing together. We want to work with you. We want to support you. We want to help you in any way that we can, and I believe great days are ahead. Sometimes it's hard to tell that you're making a difference in the lives of kids. I've been thinking back on some of the people that made a difference in my life, and I'm sure I had Sunday school teachers who wondered about me. I had VBS directors who wondered about me. I was thinking about one particular lady. Her name was Hazel Harmon, and I had walked from school to the church that was just a block away, and we were having our VBS program, and we were getting ready, and I'll be honest, I was horsing around. I was doing the wrong thing, and I remember Hazel called me out, and she made me sit on the sideline. She sidelined me at the VBS practice, and I remember sitting there thinking, I know better than this, and I'm going to be in trouble when I get home. And I didn't think really at the time about how Hazel must have been thinking, this kid doesn't get it, he doesn't pay attention, he's not listening. But I was thinking, if I could go to Hazel today and just say, Hazel, it's been a long time ago that you called me out, but I just want you to know, if you were wondering if you got through to this rock-headed little kid that was causing you all kinds of trouble that day, I just want to tell you you did. I just want to say that to all of those teachers and those leaders back through those years. I'm thankful for so many people that brought the love of Jesus into my life, and I don't know where I would be if it were not for them. And I'm thankful also, I want to say this, I don't think I've ever said it publicly in this way, but I'm thankful for parents who made sure that my brother and I were in church every week. My dad got saved when I was 11. We started going to church every week. We were going before that. My mom was taking us before that. But from then on, it was both of them. And we were involved and we were connected. And even though we lived 15 or 20 minutes away from the church at least, I never heard a complaint, one, about getting us to an event or getting us to a service. Distance and schedule were never an excuse because of the priorities that we had chosen. And so to every parent, every volunteer, every staff member, I just want to say to you today, if you are investing in the lives of children, you are making a difference. Even when you don't see it, even when you find it hard to believe, I just want you to hear that message. And this is why we cannot and we will not give up. And my hope is that this will get you a better understanding of what this partnership called Orange is really all about. One of the things we love about our partnership with the family is our Spring Hill Day Camp. You heard Joel mention it a little earlier. And in a moment, the ushers are going to come and we're going to receive this morning's tithes and offerings. But as a part of that, I want to encourage you to consider investing in our day camp. You can do that in different ways. One way, of course, is by writing Day Camp or Spring Hill on your offering envelope or on the memo portion of your check. You can also give online. We've got an online link at gotothepoint.com where you can give there if you've set up an account, or you can do that. It just takes only a few seconds. If we could look to the next slide, please. And then the mobile opportunity, you text to 77977. That's, you text to it these words, the Point Give, and then you put the amount, just a space, then amount, and then a space, Spring Hill Camp. You have to confirm when you're giving to a new account like that, because this is a sub-account that's been added in addition to our tithes and offerings. You can give to Spring Hill Day Camp today and next Sunday, or any time there in between. But we want to encourage you to give in any of these ways that you see fit to be able to support this camp that starts in June. It's 5 days, K through 5, 9 to 4 every day, and it's a life-changing week. And I want you to think about the potential of that camp. And I ask you this question before the ushers come. Do you know any kid, K through 5, who does not have a church family? I want you to think about how this intentional approach to ministry might impact some children that you know in your family, in your neighborhood, in your circles of influence. Do you know somebody that could take advantage of one of those Point family discounts? The Point Friend discount. When I saw the worship folder today, there were 23 Point Friends discounts left. You can read about it in your worship folder. 8 Point Family discounts. Would you like to send somebody to camp yourself? You can do that as you give today. I want to encourage you to give it consideration. And as a part of the offering, I want to invite you to make that contribution. And as we receive the offering, we're going to pray. And I want to encourage you to stop by the Welcome Center, the Next Gen booth right outside these doors. Amanda Wolf will be there. She can answer questions. She can talk to you. She can give you the referral cards, all kinds of resources. But you can pray for camp, and you can be involved by getting folks here some way, by inviting them. You can be a host home. You can sign up to serve. There's all kinds of possibilities, but give it consideration. And aren't you thankful for a church that invests in the family on this level? I hope that you are. I'm so grateful. Give a hand again to our volunteers and to our staff. We thank God for each one of them. Father, we're thankful today for our church family. So thankful for the investment, the commitments that have been made, the investments that are being made in the lives of families and in the lives of these kids. We know there are lots of voices clamoring for their attention. But today, Lord, we're doing everything we know how to do to leverage the positive influences, to do what we can to point these kids to Jesus. And I pray, Lord, that you will lead us in that endeavor. I pray that you'll bless this offering and bless us as we give and unite our resources to make a difference for you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.